We were driving home from a wedding when my phone lit up with a message from an unknown number. At first, I thought it was just some spam, but then I saw the preview, just a few words, a sentence that didn't make sense at first, but sent a chill down my spine. Your wife isn't who you think she is. For a second, I forgot to breathe. The highway stretched ahead in the dim glow of the headlights, and beside me, Emily was idly scrolling through her phone, her fingers moving with a relaxed rhythm. She was humming. That's what hit me, the casualness of it. The softness of her voice blending with the music playing low on the radio. I felt something in my stomach twist. My hands twitched as I picked up the phone and opened the message fully. There were pictures and a video. I shouldn't have looked, not while driving, but I did. And that's when the world shifted. The first image was blurry, like it had been taken quickly, but there was no mistaking it. A familiar figure leaning in close to someone, my wife. My wife in a dress she told me she hated, the one she said made her look too much. Her hand on a man's chest. Her lips dangerously close to his. The second image, clearer, too clear. A hotel hallway. The same man. The same dress. The same wife. I heard a roaring in my ears, like static, like wind rushing through a tunnel. My pulse slammed against my ribs. I forced myself to focus, to keep the car steady. The video was short, 10 seconds, just long enough to show Emily stepping into a hotel room. And the worst part? She was laughing. Something inside me snapped into place, cold, hard clarity. I turned my head slowly and looked at her. She was still scrolling, still lost in whatever meaningless thing she was pretending to be interested in. My mouth felt dry. "Who's texting me?" I asked. My voice surprisingly even. Emily barely glanced up. "Huh? How should I know?" "Liar." I swallowed the rage bubbling up my throat and took the next exit, pulling into an empty gas station lot. The silence between us changed. It wasn't the peaceful kind. It was loaded, electric. I turned off the engine. The air felt too still, too heavy. Emily finally looked up, confused. "Why are we stopping?" she asked. I lifted my phone so she could see the screen. Her eyes flicked to it, and in that tiny fraction of a second, I saw everything. The recognition, the fear, the calculation, and then, just as fast, she forced her face into something neutral. "What's that?" she asked. "You tell me." I sighed, rolling my eyes like I had just asked her something completely stupid. "Oh my God, seriously? Someone's messing with you. That's not even me." I let out a short laugh. Not because it was funny, but because the lie was so bad it almost insulted me. "Emily, that's literally you." She crossed her arms. "Wow, you're really going to believe some random number over your own wife? Think for a second. Who would even send you this? Probably someone trying to mess with us." I turned the phone over in my hand. The images were real. The video was real. The only thing fake in this car was the woman sitting next to me. I took a deep breath. "When did you start cheating on me?" I asked. She scoffed. Actually scoffed. "Jesus Christ, you're ridiculous." "Answer the question," I pressed. She turned toward the window, shaking her head. "I can't believe this. I can't believe you're doing this right now." Emily fell silent. The weight of it pressed down on both of us. I waited. I had all the time in the world. Finally, she turned back to me, her face set in something defiant. "I didn't cheat on you." I laughed again. Again, not because it was funny, but because it was exhausting. "Then explain the pictures." She threw her hands up. "It's not what it looks like. You're walking into a hotel room with another man. What is it supposed to look like?" She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "It's complicated." I clenched my jaw. "Uncomplicated." She exhaled sharply, shaking her head again, like I was the unreasonable one. "F you. Want the truth? I got drunk. I made a mistake. But I didn't sleep with him." "A mistake." I studied her face, the way she avoided my eyes, the way she kept touching her phone like it was some kind of lifeline. And the other times, I asked? That's when she hesitated, and that told me everything. I sat there in the car, staring at the woman I thought I knew. The woman who just admitted to making a mistake but couldn't bring herself to answer the real question. The air in the car felt thick, suffocating. She shifted in her seat, uncomfortable. "Are we done here?" she asked. I let out a slow breath, gripping the steering wheel. Not in some cliché, knuckles turning white way, but to stop myself from doing something stupid. "No," I said, my voice calmer than I felt. "We're not done." Emily sighed dramatically, like I was inconveniencing her. "What do you want me to say? I already told you it was a mistake. It meant nothing." I turned my body to face her fully. "How many mistakes, Emily?" That hesitation again, that tiny flicker of fear behind her eyes. And then, she did something I didn't expect. She smiled. Not a warm smile, not an apologetic one, a smirk. "What do you want me to say?" she repeated, her voice softer now, almost teasing. My stomach twisted. "Tell me the truth," I said. She shrugged. "The truth is, you're being dramatic. I had a little too much to drink. Things got out of hand. And now you're acting like the world is ending." I tapped the phone screen again, bringing up the pictures, the video. I held it up for her to see. "This," I said, my voice eerily steady, "is not a little too much to drink. This is you sneaking around, lying to my face." Emily rolled her eyes again. "God, you sound like a detective in a bad movie." That did it. I laughed. Actually laughed. Because the sheer audacity of this woman was something I couldn't have imagined if I tried. "Okay," I said, shaking my head. "Okay." I opened the driver's side door and stepped out, needing air. The gas station was empty except for a single truck parked near the convenience store entrance. A guy in a hoodie was pumping gas, completely unaware that my entire world was cracking apart in the stupid parking lot. The cold air hit me, clearing my head. I heard Emily's door open behind me. "Where are you going?" she asked. I turned back to her. "You care?" she groaned, rubbing her temples. "Oh my God, do you want me to beg? Is that what you're waiting for?" I took a slow step toward her. "I want you to stop lying." She let out a short, humorless laugh. "F you? Really want to know?" She looked me dead in the eyes and said it. "It's been going on for months." Something in my chest tightened, but I didn't move. She kept going, like she was daring me to react. "You were always busy, always distracted, and he was just there. It wasn't serious. It was fun. Exciting." I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. "And I wasn't?" I asked. She shrugged. "You were predictable." That word hit harder than anything else she had said. Predictable. Not bad. Not cruel. Just something she got bored of. I exhaled, slow. "And you weren't even going to tell me, were you?" Emily tilted her head, studying me like I was some puzzle she had already solved. "Why would I?" she said simply. And that was the moment I knew. She didn't regret it. She didn't feel guilty. She wasn't sorry. Not even a little. I took a step back, nodding to myself because I finally understood exactly who I was dealing with. And suddenly, I knew what I had to do next. I stared at Emily, standing there in the cold night air, arms crossed, looking at me like I was the one ruining the night, like I was the problem. She had just admitted it. For months she had been sneaking around, and she wasn't even ashamed. She wasn't even trying to convince me it was a one-time mistake anymore. She had given up on lying because she didn't think she needed to. And the worst part? She was right. She had already won. Not because I was weak. Not because I was stupid. But because she had never cared enough to play fair in the first place. I let out a slow breath, nodding to myself. "All right." Emily raised an eyebrow. "All right? What?" I glanced at my phone, the message, the pictures, the video. Whoever sent this to me had seen her for what she was before I did. A complete stranger had more respect for me than my own wife. That stung. I lifted my gaze back to Emily. Who is he? Her lips twitched into something between amusement and irritation. Does it matter? I stepped closer, lowering my voice. It matters. She gave a little half-smile, the kind people use when they know they have the upper hand. You really want to know? I didn't respond. She sighed, rolling her eyes. His name's Jason. Jason. I let the name settle into my brain like poison. She went on, watching me carefully. We met at the gym. He's different from you. I almost laughed. Of course, that was the point, wasn't it? Different how? I asked, more curious than anything. Emily hesitated for half a second before answering. He actually does things. He's spontaneous, adventurous. He doesn't just. She gestured vaguely at me. Go through the motions. I stared at her, letting those words sink in. She didn't just cheat. She had rewritten me in her head as some kind of boring, lifeless routine she needed to escape from. You mean he doesn't trust you? I said flatly. She blinked. What? You're saying he's spontaneous. What you really mean is that he doesn't expect anything from you, just fun, right? Emily's jaw tensed. Oh, come on, don't act like you've been the perfect husband. I smiled. I never said I was. But at least I wasn't a liar. Her expression darkened. So, what now? You going to cry, scream, cause a scene? I took another step back, suddenly feeling lighter. No, I said simply. I'm going to let you go. She frowned, caught off guard. What? You want excitement? Emily, you got it. I'm not going to beg you to stay. I'm not going to fight for someone who never even fought for me. I pulled my wedding ring off my finger and held it up between us. It felt small now, like a meaningless trinket. Her eyes flicked to it, then back to me. For the first time, she looked uncertain. Wait, she said, her voice softer now. You're serious? I nodded, dead serious. Emily took a small step forward, like she suddenly didn't like where this was going. Look, can we talk about this? I laughed, shaking my head. Now you want to talk? She pressed her lips together. I just think maybe you're overreacting. Overreacting? I repeated. You cheated for months, gaslit me, and now that I'm calling it, I'm overreacting? She sighed, crossing her arms again. You really want to throw away everything over this? I stared at her in disbelief. I didn't need to answer that. I opened the car door and slid back into the driver's seat. She stood there for a second, watching me, waiting for me to change my mind. I didn't. Instead, I reached over and popped the passenger door handle. Get out, I said. Her head snapped toward me. What? I looked her dead in the eyes. You can call Jason. For the first time that night, I saw real emotion on her face. Not guilt, not regret, but panic. She had never expected me to be the one to walk away. Emily let out a sharp laugh, one that was more disbelief than amusement. You're serious? I didn't answer. I just kept my hand on the door handle, waiting. Her face flickered through emotions so fast I could barely keep up. First, that cocky smirk, the one she always used when she thought she had control. Then confusion, annoyance, and finally, just for a split second, something like real fear. You're really going to kick me out in the middle of nowhere? She asked, gesturing to the mostly empty gas station. I glanced around. Looks like civilization to me. There's a convenience store. You'll live. She scoffed, shaking her head. Oh my God, you're being dramatic. I stayed silent. Emily shifted, crossing her arms, trying to act unfazed. You can't just leave me here. I turned to her, voice flat. Watch me. For a long second, she didn't move. Neither did I. The weight of everything we had built, hung between us like a thread about to snap. Then, without another word, she grabbed her purse, pushed open the door, and stepped out. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't wait for her to slam the door. I didn't even watch her walk away. The second she was out, I hit the lock button, put the car in drive, and pulled out of the gas station. I expected anger, regret, something. Instead, all I felt was relief. I was done. I drove in silence for a few miles, the weight of the past hour pressing down on me. My phone buzzed on the passenger seat. I glanced at it. Emily. I ignored it. It buzzed again, another text, then another, then a call, then another. I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to focus on the road. It wasn't until I saw the name pop up on my screen that I actually hesitated. Unknown number. The same number that had sent me the pictures. I swallowed hard and picked up. Hello? There was a pause, then a male voice. Did you do it? I frowned. Who is this? The voice exhaled. You didn't recognize me? I'm Jason. Every muscle in my body went stiff. Emily's Jason. The guy she had been sneaking around with. And for some reason, he was calling me. I gripped the wheel tighter. What the hell do you want? Jason let out a short, humorless laugh. Relax, man. I'm just checking in, making sure you saw everything. I felt something cold crawl up my spine. You sent the pictures? His tone was casual, like we were talking about the weather. I could barely wrap my head around it. I said. Her sighed. I had exposed her. Why? Jason sighed. Because she lied to me too. I didn't respond. You think she was just lying to you? Jason continued. Man, she told me she was leaving you, that you were basically done, that I was the only one. And guess what? She was saying the same to another guy too. I blinked. Another guy? Jason laughed bitterly. Yeah. I found out 2 days ago. Thought I was the only one she was messing with. But nah. Turns out your wife likes to keep things interesting. I pressed my fingers to my temple, trying to process. Emily wasn't just cheating on me, she was cheating on her other affair partner too. Jason kept talking. Look, I didn't send that stuff to screw with you. I sent it because I figured you deserved to know. Same way I deserve to know. I let out a slow breath. So what now? Jason was quiet for a second, then he said. That's up to you, man. But if I were you, I'd make sure she never gets another chance to lie again. And then he hung up. I stared at the road ahead, my pulse hammering. Emily was still calling, still texting, but I wasn't picking up. Because for the first time in this entire nightmare, I realized something. I wasn't just losing Emily, I was escaping her. I kept driving, letting the empty road stretch out ahead of me, my mind replaying everything Jason had just said. Emily had another guy. Another other guy. I almost laughed. Almost. So, this wasn't just a betrayal. It was a pattern, a game, a hobby even. And I had been nothing more than the poor idiot in the dark while she played us all. My phone buzzed again. Another text. Emily. Pick up the phone. Then another. Emily, I swear to God, if you don't pick up, you're going to regret it. I exhaled sharply, gripping the wheel. The audacity. I was going to regret it. I had half a mind to block her number right then and there, but something stopped me. A feeling, a hunch. Emily wasn't panicking because she lost me. She was panicking because she lost control. I pulled into a diner parking lot, needing a moment to breathe. The neon lights buzzed above me, flickering slightly, casting the lot in a dull, humming glow. I parked, sat in silence for a second, then finally did what I swore I wouldn't do. I picked up the phone and called her. She answered before the first ring even finished. Where the hell are you? She snapped. No hello, no fake sweetness, just anger. I leaned back against the headrest, closing my eyes. Not your concern anymore. The hell it isn't. She shot back. You just left me at a gas station like some piece of trash. I exhaled slowly, forcing myself to stay calm. Pretty sure you're capable of calling an Uber. Oh, screw you, she hissed. You are such a child, you know that? You think this makes you strong? Driving off, acting like some dramatic movie hero. I didn't say anything. Emily's breathing was sharp, furious. Then suddenly, her tone shifted just slightly. Listen, we don't have to do this. I know you're upset, I get it, but you don't just throw away everything we've built over one little mistake. I let out a bitter laugh. One? Try several. And from what I hear, I wasn't even the only one you were lying to. Silence. Then a beat later, she let out a breathy, forced laugh. Oh, let me guess. Jason called you. I stayed quiet. She scoffed. Yeah, of course he did. He's pissed because I dumped him. That's all this is. He's just trying to turn you against me because he's bitter. I rubbed my temple. Emily, I saw the proof. Photos can be faked. She snapped, her voice sharpening again. Videos too. You know, people can edit things, right? I actually pulled the phone away from my ear for a second, staring at it like it would somehow confirm I wasn't hallucinating. This was next-level delusion. Emily, I said, as evenly as I could. It's you in the video. Your face, your voice, your clothes. You walked into that hotel room. She exhaled sharply. Okay, fine. I made a mistake. But you have no idea what it was like being married to you. You were so checked out, so boring. You don't do anything. You don't take risks. You don't. I cut her off. And that's why you slept with not one, but two other men? She went silent again, depressed. And how many before them? Her breathing was suddenly too quiet, too measured. Then, in the calmest voice I'd ever heard from her, she said, Why does it matter? My blood went cold. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't ashamed. She didn't even care. I sat there, gripping my phone, feeling every last bit of my love for this woman wither and die in real time. You know what? I said, my voice eerily steady. You're right. It doesn't matter. Emily hesitated. Wait. I hung up, and this time I blocked her number. I sat there for a long moment, staring at my phone, waiting for the relief to hit me. It didn't. Not yet. But I knew it would. Because this wasn't heartbreak. This was freedom. I sat in the car outside the diner, the low hum of the neon sign above me the only sound in the empty parking lot. The phone in my hand felt lighter now that her number was blocked, like I had finally severed a chain I didn't even realize I'd been dragging around. And yet, there was still a weight in my chest. Not grief, not heartbreak. Just disbelief. Not at what she had done, I had already accepted that, but at who she really was. Because I hadn't lost a wife tonight. I had lost the illusion of one. I let out a long breath, rubbing my temple. I needed coffee. The diner was mostly empty when I walked in. A waitress with tired eyes and a name tag that read Lisa barely looked up as I slid into a booth by the window. What can I get you, hon? She asked, already pulling out her notepad. Just coffee, I said. She gave a small nod and walked away. I stared out at the dark road, letting my mind go blank for the first time all night. But the universe had other plans. Because just as I was starting to settle, my phone buzzed again. Not from Emily, she was gone, but Jason. I stared at the screen for a second, debating whether I even wanted to deal with this guy anymore. Then curiosity won. I picked up. What? Jason let out a short laugh. Yeah, you're definitely done with her. I didn't respond. He sighed. Look, I'm not calling to stir up anything. I figured you'd want to know something. I leaned back in the booth, gripping my coffee cup as Lisa set it down. What now? I asked. Jason hesitated. You know she's at your house, right? I froze. What? I just passed by, he said. Her car's in the driveway. I think she's waiting for you. I felt my pulse pick up. Not out of fear, but out of rage. Emily had just been caught red-handed, lied straight to my face, got dumped in the middle of nowhere, and her first instinct was to go back to my house. The audacity of this woman had no limit. I exhaled slowly, willing myself to stay calm. What else did you see? Jason was quiet for a moment. Lights are off. She's probably sitting in her car, waiting. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Unbelievable. Jason chuckled. Yeah, you really picked a winner. I didn't have the patience for sarcasm. Why do you even care? Why are you still keeping tabs on her? There was a pause, then Jason said, because I've never met anyone like her before. His voice was different now, not angry, not mocking, just unsettled. She's not normal, man, he continued. At first, she made me feel like I was the only guy in the world, like I was it. And then, one day, she just flipped. Cold, distant. And now I find out there was another guy the whole time? Who does that? I stared at my coffee. Saying nothing, Jason sighed. Anyway, I just thought you should know she's not done with you yet. I clenched my jaw. Well, I'm done with her. Good, Jason said. Because if I were you, I wouldn't go home alone tonight. And with that, he hung up. I sat there for a moment, staring at my reflection in the diner window. I wasn't scared of Emily. I wasn't worried about her throwing a tantrum or making a scene. But Jason was right about one thing. Emily wasn't done. Not yet. I tossed some cash on the diner table and stepped back into the cold night air. The sky stretched dark and empty above me, the roads quiet except for the occasional passing car. My house wasn't far, 10, maybe 15 minutes away, but I wasn't in a hurry. I wasn't afraid of Emily, but I also wasn't stupid. Jason's words echoed in my head. I wouldn't go home alone tonight. Why? What did he know that I didn't? Emily had already lost. She had been exposed, humiliated, and thrown aside like the liar she was. She should have been slinking away in shame, blocking me and crawling into whatever hole cheaters disappeared into when they finally got caught. But no. She was at my house waiting. That meant she wasn't done. And that made me curious. I got in my car and drove, my mind racing through possibilities. Was she there to beg, to fake cry, and guilt trip her way back in? Or was she there to lash out, to throw things, scream, break dishes, call me names until she convinced herself I was the villain? None of it mattered. She wasn't stepping foot back into my house. I turned onto my street, and there she was. Her car was parked in the driveway, engine off, no headlights. She was just sitting there like a predator lying in wait. I killed my own headlights as I pulled up on the opposite side of the street, staying in the car, watching. She didn't move, not until I opened my door. Then, like a switch had been flipped, her car door swung open, and she stepped out fast, like she had been waiting for this exact moment. Are you serious? She called out, her voice sharp in the quiet night. I didn't answer, just shoved my door and stood there, watching her. She stormed across the street, arms crossed, moving with the kind of fake confidence people use when they think they still have control. So what? You weren't even going to talk to me? I let out a short laugh. Emily, you just got caught cheating repeatedly. What else is there to say? She stopped a few feet away, eyes flashing. You need to stop acting like a victim, she snapped. You think I don't have things to say to you? You think you're perfect? There it was, the shift. She wasn't here to apologize. She was here to turn it around, to twist the knife, make me the bad guy so she could walk away with some pathetic, delusional sense of it. I shook my head, sighing. You have nothing to say that I care about, Emily. She hesitated, that tiny flicker of uncertainty. Then she scoffed, tossing her hair over her shoulder. Because you don't just get to abandon me like that. You don't get to throw me out in the middle of nowhere like I'm nothing. You are nothing to me, I said flatly. Not anymore. Her jaw tightened. You're pissed because you still care. You have to care or you wouldn't be acting like this. I stepped closer, my voice low. Emily, you cheated for months, lied to my face, made me feel like an idiot, played me like some kind of backup plan. Oh my God, will you stop with the dramatic speech? She interrupted, rolling her eyes. You are not some tragic hero. You are not innocent. You were boring. You let our relationship rot, and you want to blame me for going out and actually living? I stared at her, barely holding back a laugh. Living? She smirked. Yeah. Living. Having fun. Feeling something for once instead of wasting away in your sad little routine. There it was, the truth. She had never felt guilty. She had never been sorry. Because, in her mind, I was the problem. I was the boring, predictable husband who wasn't exciting enough for her. And instead of communicating, instead of trying to fix it, she had just gone out and helped herself to new men, like I was some old car she was trading in. I nodded slowly, letting the reality of it settle. Then I turned toward my front door. Where are you going? She demanded. Inside, I said simply. Where you're not welcome. She scoffed, stepping forward. Oh, please. You really think you can just walk away from this? From me? I turned back to her, eyes cold. I already did. Something flickered in her expression, panic, real panic, for the first time. Because she knew she had lost me for good. Her mouth opened like she wanted to argue, but nothing came out. Instead, she let out a frustrated breath and shook her head, eyes burning. You'll regret this, she muttered. I smiled. No, I won't. And then I walked inside and locked the door behind me. I leaned against the door for a second, listening. Silence. Then bang, Emily's fist slammed against the door. Open the goddamn door, you coward! I sighed, rubbing my temple. She wasn't leaving quietly. I should have expected that. You lost, Emily. I called through the door, my voice calm, measured. Go home. Or better yet, go to Jason's or the other guys. I'm sure one of them will let you in. She laughed, actually laughed, but it was thin, stretched, forced. Oh wow, you think you're so much better than me, don't you? So high and mighty now that you finally grew a spine. I didn't respond. I wasn't playing her game. Another bang against the door, then her voice dropped lower, more venomous. You'll come crawling back. I know you. You're nothing without me. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. I turned away, heading toward the kitchen, tuning her out. She could scream all she wanted. I was done. I grabbed a glass of water, took a long sip, and stared out the window. Her car was still in the driveway, parked under the dim glow of the streetlight. She wasn't leaving. Not yet. I pulled out my phone, still blocked. Good. But I wasn't taking chances. I scrolled through my contacts and found the number I needed, Ethan, my best friend since college. The kind of guy who'd show up at my house at 2 o'clock in the morning with a baseball bat if I asked. I hit call. He picked up almost immediately. Yo, you good? Not really, I admitted. Emily's outside. Won't leave. Pause. Be there in 10. I exhaled, tension easing slightly. Ethan wasn't just backup. He was a witness. Emily could twist words, manipulate, gaslight all she wanted, but she couldn't do it when someone else was there. I walked back to the front door and checked the peephole. Emily was standing on the porch now, arms crossed, shifting from foot to foot. She was getting impatient. Good. Good. I opened the door just enough to look at her. Last chance? Get in your car and leave, or I'll call the cops. Her eyes narrowed. You wouldn't. I pulled out my phone. Try me. For the first time all night, she hesitated. Then she smiled, a slow, knowing smile. You're scared, she said. I frowned. Of what? She tilted her head. Of being alone. Of realizing I was the best thing that ever happened to you. I let out a sharp laugh. Emily, the best thing that ever happened to me is realizing exactly what kind of person you are before I wasted another year of my life on you. Her smile faltered, just for a second. Then she masked it with a scoff, rolling her eyes. God, you are so predictable. Right then, headlights washed over us. A car pulled up to the curb, and Ethan stepped out, his tall frame unmistakable even in the dim light. Emily's whole posture changed. She straightened, glancing between us, calculating. Ethan walked up, stopping next to me. Hey, man. Everything good? I nodded. Just wrapping up. Emily exhaled sharply, shaking her head. Oh my God, are you serious? You called Ethan? What, you need backup now? Ethan crossed his arms. You need to leave. Emily scoffed. This isn't your house. Ethan didn't blink. No, but I'll be here all night if I have to. Your call. I could see it now, the moment she realized she had no moves left, no power, no audience. Her hands curled into fists, then relaxed. Her lips pressed together in a thin, furious line. Then, without another word, she turned, stormed down the steps, and got into her car. She slammed the door, sat there for a second, then finally started the engine. The tires screeched as she pulled out of the driveway and sped off into the night. Ethan let out a low whistle. Jesus, she's got issues. I exhaled. Yeah. We stood there for a moment, just watching the road where she had disappeared. Then, finally, Ethan clapped a hand on my shoulder. Come on, you're staying at my place tonight. I nodded, shutting the door behind us. Because Jason was right, Emily wasn't done. But neither was I. Ethan's apartment was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that made my thoughts louder than they needed to be. I sat on his couch, staring at the ceiling while he rummaged through the kitchen, muttering something about getting me a drink. My phone was face down on the coffee table, silent. Emily was gone, at least for now, but that feeling, that nagging sense in my gut, hadn't left. The feeling that this wasn't over, that she wasn't just going to slink off into the night and lick her wounds. Emily wasn't built like that. She wasn't the type to accept defeat. She was plotting. I could feel it. Ethan walked back in, handed me a beer, and flopped onto the couch beside me, cracking his open. So, he said, what's the play here? I took a sip, letting the cold drink calm the fire still simmering in my chest. Divorce, I said. Obviously. Good, Ethan said. That's step one. What's step two? I exhaled through my nose. Step two is making sure she doesn't pull any insane stunts before I can get the paperwork through. Ethan raised an eyebrow. You think she'll try something? I nodded. You didn't see her face when she left. She hated that she lost. That's not someone who's going to just let it go. Ethan rubbed his jaw thoughtfully. All right, let's think like her for a second. If you were a raging narcissist with a cheating addiction and no moral compass, what would you do next? I smirked despite myself. Smear campaign, I said. She's going to try to control the narrative, make me the bad guy so she doesn't look like the villain. Classic, Ethan muttered. What else? I hesitated. She could try to take my stuff. The house. Money. Ethan scoffed. She won't win that. You've got proof she cheated. Courts love that. I nodded, but my gut still twisted. There was something else, something bigger. Ethan must have seen it on my face because he leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. Dude, what is it? I set my beer down, rubbing a hand over my face. Jason. Ethan frowned. What about him? I sighed. He said something before I hung up on him. That he'd never met anyone like her before, that she just flipped on him one day, cold and distant. And then he finds out there's another guy. Ethan shrugged. Yeah, she's a serial cheater. You already knew that. I shook my head. No, it's not just that. She makes people believe they're the only one. Tells them what they want to hear, makes them obsess over her, and when they're too deep to see straight, she destroys them. Ethan's expression darkened. You think Jason's not done with her either? I nodded slowly, because what was worse than one unhinged ex? Two. And I had a gut feeling Emily was about to weaponize the hell out of him. That night, I barely slept, not because I was heartbroken, not because I was mourning the loss of Emily. I had already accepted that the woman I thought I loved never really existed. No, the reason I was still awake at 4 a.m., staring at the ceiling in Ethan's guest room, was because of the uneasy feeling in my gut. Emily wasn't done, and now there was Jason, the guy who thought he was the only one. who had gone out of his way to expose her after realizing he had been played. But just because he had helped me once didn't mean he was on my side. If Emily still had any hold over him, and I was almost sure she did, he could easily be turned against me. I sat up, rubbing my face, exhaustion weighing on me. I needed a plan. By 8 a.m., I was already on the phone with a lawyer. "I'll be honest with you," she said after I had given her a rundown of everything. "This case is pretty open and shut. You have evidence of her infidelity, and depending on your state laws, that can work heavily in your favor when it comes to asset division." "Good," I said, pacing Ethan's living room. "But," she continued, "if she's as manipulative as you say, she will try to stall, drag things out, and possibly make false accusations to slow the process. You need to prepare for that." I clenched my jaw. "Like what?" The lawyer sighed. "Anything. Financial abuse. Emotional cruelty. Hell, if she's desperate enough, she might even go for domestic violence claims." I stopped pacing. "She wouldn't." "Are you sure?" the lawyer asked. "Because if you told me a month ago she was the type to cheat on you with multiple men, you probably wouldn't have believed that either." My stomach twisted. She was right. Emily had already proven she had no moral compass. If she was backed into a corner, she would do anything to keep control. I exhaled sharply. "What do I do?" "Stay away from her. Don't meet her alone. Don't talk to her without witnesses or a record of the conversation. And if she shows up anywhere uninvited, document everything." I nodded, already making mental notes. "And Jason?" The lawyer hesitated. "You don't owe him anything, but if you really think she might use him, you could try getting ahead of it. Reach out. Make sure he knows what she's capable of before she spins her version of the story." I hung up, feeling more exhausted than I had before. Ethan was in the kitchen making coffee. He glanced up when I walked in. "So, what's the game plan?" I grabbed a mug and poured myself a cup. "Lawyer says I need to be ready for anything. Emily's going to fight this hard, and if she gets desperate, she might try to turn it into a mess." Ethan snorted. "Figures. What about Jason?" I took a sip of coffee, considering. "I need to talk to him." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "You sure that's a good idea?" "No, I wasn't. But I need to know where he stands." I grabbed my phone, scrolled to Jason's number, unblocked it, then I called. He picked up almost immediately. Well, look who decided to reach out." I didn't bother with. "We need to talk." Jason let out a short laugh. "Yeah, no kidding. Not over the phone," I said. "Meet me somewhere public." He was quiet for a moment, then replied, "Fine. There's a coffee shop on 6th, 10 o'clock. I'll be there." I hung up, setting my phone down with a sigh. Ethan folded his arms. "Want me to come?" I shook my head. "If he feels cornered, he'll get defensive. I need him to believe I'm not against him." Ethan didn't look convinced, but he didn't argue. "All right, but if you're not back in an hour, I'm coming after you." I smirked. "Noted." An hour later, I was sitting across from Jason in a small cafe, watching him stir his coffee like he was debating whether or not to throw it in my face. "You know," he said finally, looking up, "I should hate you." I raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "Because I wasted months of my life on that woman," he said bitterly. "And you were the reason she kept me at arm's length. Every time I pushed, every time I asked when she was finally leaving you, she'd say, 'Just a little longer.' It's complicated." I exhaled. "Yeah, that sounds about right." Jason leaned back in his chair, studying me. "So why are we here? What do you want?" I met his gaze. "To make sure either of us gets screwed over." Jason let out a short, humorless laugh. "Too late for that." "Not entirely," I said. "Emily's not done playing games. And if she decides to turn you into a weapon against me, I need to know whether I'm dealing with an enemy or an ally." Jason's jaw tightened. "She would do that, wouldn't she?" "Absolutely," I said. And if you don't believe me, wait a few days. She'll reach out, spin some sob story, make it seem like I'm the monster. And if you're still stupid enough to fall for it, she'll use you until she doesn't need you anymore." Jason looked away, clenching his fists. "I hate her," he muttered. "No," I said. "You hate that she fooled you. There's a difference." Jason took a slow breath, then nodded. "All right. You're right. I'm done with her." I studied his face, searching for hesitation. There was none. "Good," I said, standing up. "Then do yourself a favor. If she calls, don't pick up." Jason smirked. "Already blocked her." We shook hands. It wasn't friendship. It wasn't camaraderie. It was just understanding. And for the first time since this nightmare started, I finally felt like I was ahead of the game. Emily was out of moves, and I was done playing.